Cold season. Shocking statistic, guys. The cold and the flu, it's around all the time. Okay? All the time. It doesn't magically show up in the fall. Okay? So it's just our systems are typically less efficient and less resilient at responding to the environment. And why do you think that is? What happens around the holidays? How do we eat?
Junk food!
We eat like crap, right? A lot of sugar. Okay? So sugar, we know that suppresses what? Your immune system dramatically. Very, very, very quickly at a very large percentage. Also, the sun has a really big role in reference to our sleep cycles and sleep patterns. Guess what else we don't get as much of in this season? Sunlight. And guess what happens if we don't sleep a consecutive 7 to 8 hours consistently? What happens to our natural killer cells? They decrease by 30%. And those are the cells that we need to kill cancer. Okay? Yep. So we sleep less or we sleep distorted, right? We don't get as much sunlight, so in reference to vitamin D synthesis and production. And we also eat more junk. So that's kind of what we're going to talk about tonight. Cool? Ultimately, I want to help teach you guys a little bit more about the gut-brain connection. It is currently accepted that roughly 95% of disease burden in America is lifestyle-induced. Okay? Epigenetic factors, meaning the stuff that we do and get into every single day, the choices that we make for ourselves. Roughly 5% of disease burden in this country is estimated to be genetically predisposed, or there is a physical anomaly in the genome that is causing an expression of a disease process. Cool? So that's kind of crappy, but it's also kind of cool because that's actually very hopeful information, because guess what we have control over? 95% of disease expression, right? And due to our lifestyle choices. So when we talk about health, guys, our office heavily focuses on something called salutogenesis, or the study and the origins of health, rather than the focus of disease and disease processes, okay? Has anybody ever played around with the ICD codex? You know, ICD diagnoses, this is what we use to code and tell insurance companies what problems people have. Do you want to guess how many ICD codes there are?
10,000.
Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of different codes we can use to describe different diseases. So if we get lost in the weeds and we focus on each individual disease process, are we ever going to find our way to health? Not typically, no. So we really want to focus on health and health practices. And if you guys have been a patient in this office for more than probably a month, you should know the answer to this question. What two systems in your body pretty much control and coordinate everything else that happens inside you? Nervous system, nice job. Ken, thank you. And your digestive system. Nice, because everything in your body runs on power and chemistry. Where does all your chemistry come from? How do we put fertilizer into this soil and garden? Food. Great. Where does all the power supply come from? Where's the information come from to coordinate action? The nervous system, right? And the nervous system is heavily dependent upon the health of what to do its job. The health of your spine, which is why we're here tonight. Autoimmune So guys, if you guys are readers like me, you like to consume information, really cool ones here: mind-gut connection, autoimmune epidemic, and brain. If you guys want to read those, really good resources for you. One of my favorite ones, but it's like super heady clinical, a little bit harder for people to understand, is what's called the polyvagal theory. This is the literal connection between your gut and your brain. We're going to talk about that a little bit more tonight. But your vagus nerve is a super important neurologic structure. It actually has its own classification of the nervous system called the enteric nervous system. And it literally is so important it gets its own name because it literally does every job of the body. It's pretty cool. So guys, we're going to talk about general disease processes, why it's happening in reference to what's going on with gut health, and then specific ditches and switches we can get into through the holiday season. Again, when we talk about this, is it healthy? No. Is it a better alternative to the mainstream crap we all put in our bodies? Yes. Good. And so part of the conversation is how can we reduce burden, right? Show of hands, who here agrees with me that your body is a self-adapting and self-healing organism? Love it. Everybody's hands go up. So So, if the body is a self-adapting and self-healing organism, then what moves us away from our body's natural state to do that? Variable lifestyle stressors. Okay, stressors can be physical in nature, like repetitive exercise, postures, car accidents, slips and falls, growing up with an older sibling that hits you in the back of the knees with a baseball bat. Ow. Physical stressors, okay? What about chemical stressors?
Oh, yeah.
Food, water, toxins, environments, makeups, cleaners, toxins, laundry detergents, parabens, sulfates, BPA, all the stuff that's in our crops, our soil, our water, right? Everybody good on that? We'll cover a little bit more in depth, but we all know that there's a systemic poisoning of life, humanity, life, right? Because we are more profitable as sick individuals than we are as healthy individuals, yes? Chemtrails, you're not off base there. Okay, and then we have all of our mental and emotional stressors. And the cool part about your body, it does not differentiate between what kind of stress are you interacting with. So when we come in contact with various stressors, the body is going to go into a stress response, called a fight or flight mechanism. When we are in a chronic state of stress, does our body do a better job or a worse job of healing tissues and regulating inflammation? Good. So if we're all chronically stressed all the time, makes sense why we're having a hard time repairing our bodies and repairing tissue in the way that we were innately designed to. Does this make sense, guys? Beautiful. So, unfortunately, when we have systemic disease, specifically correlative to gut health and gut health practices, these are the primary problems that we typically deal with in society and in life. One being autoimmune disorders or autoimmune profiles. Everybody know what autoimmune means?
Attacks itself.
The body attacking itself. If the body is an intelligent mechanism and a self-adapting and self-healing structure, why would the body ever attack itself? Stressors, right? It shouldn't, agreed, but it does, right? Autoimmune disorders are going up or going down in prevalence? Significantly, yes, and there's a bajillion of them, right? So at this time, actually more than this, 50 million Americans do suffer from an autoimmune disorder. That's roughly $100 billion per year in reference to economic burden, and researchers are still believe that the increase in autoimmune incidence around the world is due to a combination of genetic predispositions and environmental factors. Yep. And there's been an over 300% increase in the diagnosis of if you have one autoimmune condition, the probability is you will have
others.
More, at least
yep.
two.
One or more, okay? So really good read, the autoimmune epidemic. Unfortunately, autoimmune disorders do typically seem to either be diagnosed more readily or typically be more prevalent in females versus males. Interesting, right? Autoimmune disorders can show up in really any tissue of the body. And it's underlying, it's pretty much the same disease process. It's just whatever tissue it's attacking, that's the diagnosis you receive. So if it attacks your thyroid, you're going to get diagnosed with Hashimoto's. If it attacks your nervous system, you're going to get diagnosed with MS, right? So you're going to get various diagnoses depending upon which organ or which tissue it shows up in. But again, the root of the issue is all still coming from the same place, which is your gut and body's ability to interact with the environment effectively and regulate and heal itself in the world that we live in. Guess what else is highly correlative to gut health? Who came to our advanced workshop on mental health? Yeah, okay. We talk about serotonin. Everybody know what serotonin is? What is serotonin?
Happy hormone.
It is a hormone neurotransmitter. Yes, and it makes us feel what, Gene? Happy and well-regulated. Where is 90% of serotonin created in the body? Say it louder.
The gut.
The gut.
That's why we eat chocolate.
Dark chocolate specifically, 72% cacao or greater, has some pretty cool health benefits. Yes, precursor. I just read, I don't have data on this.
I don't know.
But I saw something the other day that people that boil banana peels make like banana peel tea. Banana peels, I haven't researched this, don't hold me to this, okay? Banana peels release the precursor to tryptophan, so people make it at night and it helps you to like fall asleep faster. Haven't researched it yet.
Good for you.
curious to look at. I don't know that yet, just saw it randomly the other day. But serotonin, 90% is made in the stomach and small intestines by the microbiome. Okay? We're going to talk a lot about the microbiome tonight. It's important that you understand this process of your health and your well-being. So if we really want to have a huge impact on mental health, we need to be working on stress management, yeah, but also gut health. Okay? And unfortunately, this is impacting adults. And actually, do you think more adults are diagnosed with anxiety disorders or more children?
Children.
Pediatrics, by a large margin. Okay? Same thing with depression, specifically in adolescents or the 13 to 18-year-old demographic. 1 in 3 adolescents, 1 in 9.
Skittles.
Yes, ma'am.
Skittles.
Skittles. You're accurate. Okay?
I asked the question, because we talked about teenagers and young adults. I don't remember anybody or any time or anyone saying, "Oh, I'm depressed" when I was younger.
That was then.
But
No,
but
everyone's
again,
depressed.
right. And then also when we were younger, it's just like your mom was smacking the back of the head when you were being hyper, quote unquote hyper. And guess what? You stopped.
Right.
So I'm.
So maybe there's a little bit of nurturing to this process, right? There's a lot of nature involved as well. So would you agree that the environment today, as well as the chemical burden of society, is increased from what it was 30 to 50 years ago?
Oh, I think that we're absolute horrible and let our children live inside.
Yes.
So, yeah.
But yeah, in reference to what's in the air, what's in the water, what's being put into their bodies at a much higher rate and quantity than what was put in my body or your body.
We had to drive 2 hours to McDonald's, so
Yes.
guess what?
Those things are all adding up and influencing what's called the epigenetic expression of the body. Okay. Anybody come to our workshop on epigenetics, where we talked about methylation and histone modification? I know, gee, that's one of the ones that puts you to sleep a little bit. But methylation and histone modification, if you guys do not understand these terms, they are huge players in this epigenetic disease burden understanding. Okay? When we methylate a gene, we are inhibiting it. We are turning it off. So ladies, you guys have a BRCA1 and a BRCA2. Those are genes that either genetically predispose you to get breast cancer or to inhibit breast cancer. BRCA2 is a breast cancer inhibition gene. So if we get a lot of plastics, a lot of crap from our makeups, cleaners, and toxins like parabens and sulfates, they mess with methylation processes. And if we methylate BRCA2, you are basically turning that tumor suppression gene off.
Is that called BRCA? Is that the BRCA?
BRCA, yeah.
Is that why people take methylene drops?
That's why they, not methylene blue,
Not the blue, the other one.
but methylated B vitamins,
Right.
yes,
Oh, yeah.
absolutely, like methylcobalamin or methylpentaphenate or methyltetrafolate. So if you guys are taking B vitamins and it doesn't start with the term methyl, your body is not getting a whole lot from them. It's a more difficult formulation to absorb and utilize, okay? So this is also super important, your understanding of the various products that we use, right? But unfortunately, statistically, then that doesn't include
I'm trying not to bump your thing.
That's okay. This doesn't include childhood obesity, okay? When we include that, this statistic goes up over 50%. So more than 50% of our children are chronically ill in this country, which is crazy. So the impact of chronic illness across the board, because gut and brain play the primary role in this process. 107 million Americans, at least 1 in 6 have one of 20 chronic health conditions. 70% of deaths are from chronic health conditions, and 50%, if they have one, they have another. An estimated economic burden of $2.3 trillion a year. Citing and sources. Okay. So guys, when we get lost in the sauce in reference to disease burden, we need to make health more readily understandable and tangible. Okay. So I think I've done this for a couple of you guys before, but most of you guys drove one of these things to be here tonight, right? What does a car need to get from point A to point B? Good, gas. So it needs to have fuel.
And tires.
It needs to have tires, so it needs to have some parts as well, right? A steering wheel, oil.
And
Okay. Oh, say that last one.
a driver.
A driver, because if a car has all of its parts and it's got a full tank of gas, but it doesn't have anything to input intelligent command, to make the parts and the power organize and work together, it's not going to go from A to B. Does that make sense to you? Cool. The same thing is true of this cool system that's mapped off your human brain. It needs a motherboard, a keyboard, it needs a full battery. But if it's just sitting there doing its thing, this was before AI. AI is a little freaky, we're not going to talk about tonight.
Yeah.
It typically needed somebody inputting intelligent command to get the parts and the power to organize and generate a product, to deliver an end result, okay, to coordinate action. This system, what does it need?
Water.
Parts,
Air.
power, and information. Needs the same three things, okay? So, A&P 101 guys, give me some parts of the body.
Legs.
Legs, cool. Heart, lungs, liver, kidneys, brain, right?
Intestines.
What about power? What's the power supply for the body?
Muscle.
Nervous system.
Food.
ATP, nice, adenosine triphosphate, which we generate in the cell because of the food we eat and the mitochondria, yes. So we're talking about micro and macrocellular mechanisms. But what is this?
Information.
What's the information of the body?
Knowledge.
Central nervous system.
Kind of, right?
Yeah.
Any musicians in the room?
Senses.
Yeah, cool. Does everybody understand the concept of tuning a guitar? For the most part? Okay, so wires or nerves run on vibration. Okay? Have you ever has anybody stood next to a power plant before and heard the hum? Cool. Electricity,
A frequency.
resonance, it vibrates. Yeah, it's a frequency. So guess what the information is in your body? The quality of the frequency of the vibration of your nerve tissue. And cool research shows us that the amount of tension equivalent to the weight of a dime can inhibit neural impulses by upwards of 60%. So, what places a lot of tension on nerve tissue? The health and structure of your
Spine.
Yeah, A+ student. I planted him here, by the way. He knows all the answers to the questions. It's just awesome. So yeah, your spine, okay? Your spine has anchoring sites where the nervous system attaches inside the bony column. And the more distorted the spinal structure gets, the more abnormal tensions applied to nerve tissue. And then your brain starts to get really crappy communication. And the brain's like, I'm supposed to make things work, but I don't know, I'm not getting the data that I need to do the job, right? If we played a game of telephone here, everybody know what telephone is?
Yes.
So if I whispered something to Kim and she sent it down the line, and by the time it got back to Mr. Sullivan, that information would be, that message, would it be the same or would it be different?
Distorted.
It would be extremely distorted, correct? The same thing is true of your spinal column. There are 28 vertebrae, 33 relays, and so if each of those is a little funky, putting its own little spin on the information going from your toes to your brain, the brain's gonna be like, I kind of got what you're telling me and I'll try to figure it out for you, right? So the quality of the information traveling over the nervous system is really, really important to how our body interacts with the world and the environment, but so is the power supply, what we're nourishing our system with, okay? Because we are all made up of parts, parts eventually do what, guys?
Break down.
Yeah, we are going to meet Jesus sometime, right? Cool. So parts do eventually break down over time. What would accelerate the breakdown of a part?
Or treatment.
Bad food, poor treatment, stressors, right? Physical, chemical, mental, emotional, okay? So, for example, various stressors. So if we had this beautiful little plant, let's say it's a peach tree, because peaches are awesome, and let's say we put it in an environment where it wasn't getting the ideal amount of sunlight. It was potentially getting, drinking tap water, and it was, sprayed with glyphosate and Roundup, which is, class action lawsuit known to cause what?
Cancer.
Specifically lymphoma, yes. Largest findings in history. Besides the Sackler family and Purdue Pharma and the opioid epidemic. And then Monsanto filed bankruptcy and then got bought and shelled under a new corporation, and so that's why you can still buy Roundup today. So, various stressors. What if we take the same principle and we apply it to this system? What if we give this system less light, like in fall, right? What if we give it less movement? And the Journal of Exercise Physiology indicates that children are moving roughly 33% less than they were 5 years ago. Okay. And what if we make them, put a bunch of tap water in here? Tap water is filled with what? Fluoride, which is now, well, it's been known to be, but is now documented as a known what? Neurotoxin, and crosses the blood-brain barrier and breaks down nerve tissue, okay? People have been talking about this for 20 years, but you know, they were being chased with torches and pitchforks. And then what about if we have this dude cook on Teflon and reheat all their food in plastic containers in the microwave?
Microplastics.
Yeah, microplastics, toxins build up, right? So can you guys see now, you know, how this system would maybe talk to us a little bit faster over its life cycle than somebody 60, 70 years ago? Of like, hey, so many children are chronically ill now. It's like, yeah, the burden is excessively high and it's happening sooner. Do you guys know that they've started to test fetal cord blood? Do you want to know what the average amount of known toxins and carcinogens are in fetal cord blood? Meaning the blood they're pulling from the umbilical cord while baby is still in utero. 221 is what was listed on the research study. 221 known carcinogens and chemicals in fetal cord blood. So we're cooking in a stew that doesn't allow for the appropriate maturation of neural tissue, and less than 50% of children at this time in our country are neurotypical. They're neurodivergent. Yes, ma'am. So symptoms, guys, not good or bad, just a good expression of what's going on. And the rise of disease burden across all statistics in America is going up. So we got to be more conscious consumers, especially in the seasons where, as moms, dads, grandparents, we just want to like love on our little people and spoil them a little bit. And it's like, it's Halloween, get out there and go, you know, fill a pillow sack worth of candy and then eat it in a week. And then try not to get sick, right? I'm the weird, crazy, mean dad that like, we just like, we don't do that. Just not something we do. If we do partake in Halloween, then we do an exchange, okay? We exchange the pillowcase, donate that candy, and they can pick one of a few items to eat over an extended window of time. So that's a way that you could potentially choose to manage that in yourselves or your families, but I know it's not, you're not gonna be the fun parent. You're not gonna be a fun grandparent. But would you rather build them up in a lifestyle that's going to ensure success? I don't know about you, but legacy is really important to me. The propagation of lineage in reference to like infertility rates and like, you know, like what's going on in the world. Or do we want to, you know, be the fun person, right? So, and it's a choice, right? It's just an exchange. So we got to make sure that we're being much more conscious consumers and providing the body what it needs to do its job. Because this is what we like to talk about, called the gut-brain quadrangle. This is adopted from Dr. Paul Hardy, who's a biomedical doctor out on the West Coast who specializes in the care and, dare I say, reversal of neurodevelopmental issues. So we have our own individual genetics, and do genetics play a role in our health? Yes, but it's not the end-all be-all, guys. Okay, 5% versus the 95%. So we put somebody with a genome that, has anybody heard of the MTHFR gene mutation, by the way? MTHFR, it's becoming increasingly common in new children. Their body is having a much harder time detoxifying because of these epigenetic and methylation processes that we're talking about. So they need a lot more metabolic and supplemental support to help their bodies to detox from the burden that is being placed upon them in the neonatal period. So we have these various physical, chemical, mental, emotional stressors from the environment, and as our nutrition, you know, the standard American diet, aka the SAD diet, right? SAD, standard American diet. Thank you, appreciate the giggles. Is that allowing us for the appropriate macronutrient in the vitamins and the minerals that we need in the right formulations to get into our body to help our body do well? Nope. So we have malnutrition, various stressors going through a genetic profile that might be having a harder time in this environment. And then we have 4 systems listed in this quadrangle: nervous system, GI, detox, and immune system. And guess what? See how they're all 2-sided arrows?
Yeah.
Do any of these systems work independently of the other? Nope, it's all one big super system, right? We are a holistic being and all of our processes interact with each other. I'm a little biased. I think it's cool that the nervous system is at the top. Kind of important, right? So if we have a nervous system that is stressed and not able to process and regulate and control and coordinate effectively, and we have a GI system that's burdened with heavy environmental toxins and not the right nutritional profile, our detoxification system is going to be overactive and our immune system is going to be underactive. Sometimes it's hyperactive, and that's where we get autoimmune profiles from, okay? And then based upon the interaction of these systems, the health of this individual and what's going on in their environment, crap's going to show up. And then we get a diagnosis of you have Hashimoto's thyroiditis, and so we need to pump you full of Synthroid in order to make your thyroid work the way it's supposed to. Does the thyroid work independently of the other glands of your body? No. Where does thyroid stimulating hormone come from? Because if you're deficient in producing T3 or T4, you're not generating enough thyroid stimulating hormone. Where does that hormone come from? Your pituitary gland, which is located where? So guess what we need to work on?
You're right.
The nervous system.
Nervous system and gut health. Yep. Okay. All right. So this is happening to all of us in varying magnitudes, and it's showing up differently in each of our own profiles because we're all unique individuals experiencing life in our own way. So genetic predisposition, chronic environmental stress. 95.5. That is contributing to something called microbiome depletion or alteration, could be termed that. Show of hands, what is a microbiome? Ken?
The community of bacteria in your gut.
And all over you.
Yeah.
All over you. In your blood, in your blood vessels, on your skin, in your lymphatic system, in your digestive system, literally everywhere. You are a walking bacterial colony. There's a video coming up. I'm going to skip it. It's a cool TED Talk. Do you want to check it out? It's based on a book called 1/10 Human. It is Halloween time, so play along with me. If you took me and threw me into a wood chipper, caught all of it, and looked at it under a microscope, 9/10 of what you would see would be bacterium in foreign bodies. 1/10 would be my human DNA. We are outnumbered in and on our own body in a 10-to-1 ratio, from bacterium and viruses to human cells. So do you think if these bacterium are that prevalent that they may play a role in your health and well-being? Yes, we live in a really cool symbiotic relationship with the world and the environment around us. These bacterium, because we come in contact with bacterial exposures every day, and I would actually encourage you to get more of it. Any Office fans in here? Anybody watch The Office?
Yes.
Yeah, you know where Dwight's like, hey, like I want all of it, and Jim just like sneezes in his face and he's like, oh, thank you. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about? That cracks me. But that is actually not a bad practice. There's a reason why people that have a lot of exposure don't get sick that often, right? Because their immune system is constantly being forged under demand. So microbiome, incredibly important to something called psychoneuroimmune modulation. Okay, psycho means what? Our mental and emotional perceptions and burdens. Okay, the microbiome is foundational to your mental and emotional burden. The microbiome is foundational to your nervous system, and the microbiome is foundational to your immune system. Okay, it is the precursor to your immune system. In fact, your microbiome actually makes its own antimicrobials, its own antibiotics, when it comes in contact with a species that is not part of this system. Which is pretty cool. So your microbiome, the bacteria that live on in you, are actually fighting for you, which is kind of cool. So where do we get our microbiome from, guys? Where do we get our first bacterial exposure from?
Mom.
From your mama, coming through the birth canal, okay? If we are not born vaginally, we do know that those individuals do typically have a 50% increase in all chronic childhood diseases. Asthmas, recurrent infections. Also, how do we typically treat children who have an infection in mainstream medicine? Are antibiotics bacterial strain specific? Or are they broad spectrum?
Some are broader than others, but
Yes, ma'am.
basically they're all.
Do antibiotics do anything for you if you have a viral infection?
No.
How many times do we take our kids to the doctor with an infection and we get antibiotics to treat a bacterial infection, but it's actually a viral infection?
I can honestly say my primary care for my kids, they do not give them antibiotics for viral.
That's amazing.
They
And that's
just
a
let 'em
huge
work
rarity.
out.
That's what we should do, yes.
Yeah.
But actually, if you look in the American Academy of Pediatrics, giving antibiotics to any child is contraindicated and has a 90 to 97% causation, not correlation, causation to chronic otitis media, sinusitis, rhinitis, and bronchitis. Meaning, one introduction of antibiotics in the adolescent period gives you a 90% probability of having recurrent infections in the future. This is in the American Academy of Pediatrics. You're welcome to look it up. So the microbiome, responsible for psychoneuroimmune modulation, we get it coming through the vaginal canal, being exposed to bacterium. Ideally, moms in the preconceptive phase are taking very good care of themselves and having healthy bacterial flora of the vaginal canal, so that way we can pass that to babies. And that bacteria, really cool. Have you guys ever heard of something called the golden hour? Yes. So the hour after baby's born, that bacterium will spread from mouth through the entire digestive system to anus. It'll proliferate in the first hour of life, lining the entire digestive system. That's pretty stinking cool, right? And then moms also give babies really wonderful microbial contents through their breast milk, because ladies are built way cooler than dudes. You guys have glands in your areolas that the baby's saliva interacts with the glands in your areolas, and then your body makes the perfect microbial nutritional cocktail for that baby at that moment, at that time. Sir?
Is it, I think I've heard it that if a mother does it to a child that's not their own, they'll create another cocktail for the baby.
Yeah, so they did a really cool study where this mom had identical twins. One had a common corona rhinovirus, so a common cold, and the other was asymptomatic. And so she was exclusively breastfeeding symptomatic baby on left breast and non-symptomatic baby on right breast, and then they hand expressed the milk into petri dishes, and they studied it, and this one was vastly different than this one.
Wow.
Super cool, right?
Wow.
Yeah, so ladies are super cool. So we solidify that microbiome by being breastfed, and then that what lines the tight and gap junctions of our stomach and small intestines, because your digestive system, what's its job? What's it do for you? Absorption and
Release.
elimination. Good. In summary, right? Do we want everything that we put in here to go into our bloodstream? No. So how is our body selective at what it allows into the bloodstream and what it wants to keep out? Your microbiome and something called tight and gap junctions in the intestinal lining. They are like bouncers, okay? They're the ones that are like, you can come in, you stay out. We like you, we don't like you. We are going to absorb you, we don't want to absorb you. But if we break down the microbiome and the tight and gap junctions of our intestines, we're going to end up with something called leaky gut. Guess who has leaky gut, guys?
A bunch of people.
Everybody.
All of us. All of us.
I
In varying degrees.
resemble that.
I resemble that one, Mark. Right? Everybody. And so this influences our autoimmune profiles, our hypersensitivities, this is such a big one that drives me bananas. Allergens and skin irritations and sensitivities like eczemas. You do not have eczema because you have a steroid deficiency.
Oh, yeah, true.
Okay? You have eczema because your body is highly inflamed. Yes, and the only other excretory organ of the body besides the digestive system is your integumentary system. So if we can't get waste out of here, guess where it's coming out, guys? Skin. Very good. So then we end up with more pathologies. That progresses, and we end up with severe neurologic inflammation, and that's going to be like your MSs, your ALSs, your Alzheimer's, dementias, your ADDs, ADHDs, autisms, OCDs, all the neuroencephalopathies, all the things that are basically brain inflammation. Have you guys figured out that like everything you get diagnosed with ends in itis? What does itis mean?
Inflammation.
So guess what the root of the 95% of your diseases are? The body produces inflammation in response to what? Stressors. Guess what we got to get better at doing? Managing stressors or improving the competence of our body to adapt to stressors more efficiently. Cool? Adaptogens are a great part of the process of doing that. So here's the actual descriptor of leaky gut syndrome. We have
Currently have.
4 dietary profiles, antibiotics, if you ever had one, it's part of the process. Variable underlying pathogens like parasites, and guess what? Who has parasites now, guys? Based upon everybody, at some varying degree. You probably did.
They may be coming down.
Because you did such a good job on your gut health program. Shameless plug, we're going to talk about it. So sorry. And if you interact with animals at all, you have parasites most likely. There are 3 things that God gave us that are really cool that help us to get rid of all the developmental stages of parasites in the body. Do you know what they are? This is a good takeaway, okay? Sweet wormwood. Green walnut husk. And clove. If you find a tincture or now you do not just want to do this willy-nilly, because parasites' primary food source is what?
Sugar.
Sugar, heavy metals, and toxins. So if we kill off all the parasites, guess where that stuff's going? Into your bloodstream. And guess what's going to happen to you? You're going to get very sick. I've seen this happen in parasitic detoxes that did not go according to plan. Because usually if we go through a parasitic detox, we also have to pair that with something called a binder, okay? Like an activated charcoal of some kind to bind, to pull it out. Now,
What did you say the second one was?
sweet wormwood, green walnut husk, and
Clove.
cloves. And if we consume those things, also pumpkin seeds, very helpful for parasites. My kids eat pumpkin seeds at breakfast every day. Those are all good things to help with natural means to help rid the body of parasitic infection. So I would highly encourage you guys to not just jump into that, but to definitely give that a bit more of a read. Cellcore has a really good parasitic protocol if you're interested in diving into that a little bit deeper. But again, you do have to pair it with a binder or you will get super duper ill. Okay? Depends upon what your parasitic load is. So we have drugs, alcohols, toxins, stressors, hypersympathetic response, basically just means we're super duper stressed. And ultimately, when we are super duper stressed, does your body want to give more blood to your stomach or more blood to your heart and your extremities? Heart and extremities, because when we are stressed out, we want to fight and flight and run away. So our body devotes resources to the mobilization of sugar, and it gives our blood to our extremities and to our heart and to our lungs so we can run away from problems. Okay? So in a hypersympathetic dominant state, meaning a chronic stress response, which guess what chiropractic helps you do? Not be there. Okay? Our body is actually pulling resources away from the digestive system, making it less efficient in a more hostile environment. Okay? But if these tight junctions, these guys right here, the gatekeepers, the bouncers, they break down, then we end up with leak crap getting into the bloodstream, and then your very intelligent body will do the very best that it can, start to attack that or attack itself, and that is a autoimmune disease. Okay? So how do you think we can reverse the majority of autoimmune diseases?
Fix your gut.
Step 1.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. We're going to skip this video, even though it's really cool. There is a cool TED Talk called 1/10 Human, really cool book called 1/10 Human. Highly encourage you to check it out. Signs that you have a leaky gut. Okay. This guy right here. Bloating, gas, cramps, food allergies, and sensitivities. There is a really important thing for you to understand that there is a huge difference between an allergen and something you are sensitive to. For example, me. I am not allergic to anything, because I've done the test. I am highly sensitive to dairy. If I consume dairy, my system is wrecked. I will be somewhat anxious or very depressed, and I will start to have like really interesting inflammatory responses in either my knee or my lumbar spine, like my L5S1, if I consume an excessive amount of dairy. Okay, there are certain dairies I can get away with, certain dairies like just not okay. If we go out for ice cream for any reason, I'm not going to be a happy camper for the next like 72 hours. Okay. Really cool study that they did for fried foods. Okay, we are all sensitive to fried foods. Nobody should be eating fried food. They did a cool study. Do you guys know, so inflammatory markers in your bloodstream, how long do you think inflammatory markers are elevated in the bloodstream after you smoke a cigarette?
12 hours.
4.
How long do you think inflammatory markers are elevated in the bloodstream after you consume fried food? 48. Whoa is right. So you're telling me that eating fried chicken is, I'm not math guy, whatever times X more inflammatory than smoking a cigarette? Yes, that is what the data shows. Crazy. Yes, ma'am.
So are you just talking about fried foods with the seed oils?
Hydrogenated oils, yes, ma'am.
We can use them all like an air fryer.
Cook your steak.
Better. Still not right. Okay? Because the process of frying is the process of denaturing proteins. And it's still carcinogenic. Sir.
Would this include like potato chips too?
Oh yeah. Sorry guys.
So what's the shake on beef talk?
Interesting. Decent to cook with. Yeah. Smoke points are really important to understand when working with oils. And so some of our oils have much higher smoke points or denaturing points than like our hydrogenated oils. So your beef tallows, your grass-fed butters, your coconut oils, your cold-pressed organic olive oils, those are the ones that we want to stick to. Okay? But if that progresses and we don't just stop it at leaky gut, which is going to affect all sorts of interesting hormonal profiles as well, it will end up with neurologic inflammation, and then we'll start to have other fun issues. Top 7 signs that we got leaky gut, or top 7 foods that contribute to leaky gut. Gluten in most grains. And it's not gluten by itself is bad. Okay? It is what it is treated with in this country. All gluten is sprayed with what? Pesticides, and specifically folic acid. Folate is very important to you. Folonic acid is very important to you. Folic acid, not awesome. Body can't do a whole lot with it. Okay? Most of your B vitamins that you buy are going to say folic acid. Folic is a different formulation than folate. Methyl tetrafolate is different than folate. It's different.
I keep thinking folic acid in pregnancy.
Yes, you're correct. But folic acid is not what we need. We need folate, specifically methotetrafolate, or the precursor to that, because they're doing a really cool thing now. I'm not sure if you guys have been catching on to this. It's all over the socials. They're starting to help individuals with neurotypical issues by giving them high-dose folonic acid, which is a different formulation. But it has about a 50% cure rate right now. They used to use this medication. It was called Leucorvin for cancer patients with actually pretty high success. And all it was folate, but in a different formulation. So there's kind of a cool shift in the neurodevelopmental world right now where the data's there. It's pretty neat if you guys want to check it out.
So what about organic gluten? Things that are
Better.
organic?
Better.
Better.
It does reduce your burden, but a lot of us have gluten sensitivities now because of the genetic modification, hybridization of these various strains in order to make them more resistant to the world. So our body has a harder time breaking them down and processing them. I also read something really interesting that if you buy pre-milled grains, the nutrient quality of what you're getting is already stripped. So there's also a kind of a cool shift in movement towards everybody milling their own grain at their house and then using that flour to bake with because it still holds and maintains like 90% of the nutritional competence of what comes from grains. And it's, if you I don't know how far down the rabbit hole you want to go, but there's some really cool biblical aspects to that. And if you look at the Amish community and their incidences of chronic disease, autisms, and fertility rates, the Amish are going to outlive all those guys. They are truly going to repopulate the earth because their fertility rates are fantastic and ours are terrible. Okay? And if you go to a fertility clinic, if a male has a 4% normal spermatogenesis, that is considered a normal, healthy sperm sample. Meaning 4% of the sperm in that sample are viable and have the normal morphology of what a sperm should look like. 4%. Yep. Yet, it takes 2 to tango, right? And we put so much of that infertility burden on who?
The woman.
Yet, in every other animal type breeding process, who is the prize? The stud, right? People pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to breed with X stud, okay? because the quality of the sperm influences the quality of the formation of the placenta. And ladies, Ken, I know you know this one already, morning sickness is whose fault?
Man.
The man's fault. Of course.
In the quality and the morphology of the sperm.
Oh, wow.
If you guys want to dive into that,
It's worse. It's worse.
yep, it's required. There's more methylation processes occurring where the mom is having to repair the lack of what it is that's coming through it in the sperm. And Marcia Schaefer is a really cool person to check out on this. She has an infertility clinic up in Madison, Wisconsin. She has a very, very, very high success rate working with individuals within a calendar year to helping them to conceive via natural means by fixing gut health and fixing brain health and getting the body to do what it's supposed to do.
So,
Ma'am.
subsequent pregnancies would, like with my daughter, this is her third, and she just now had the morning sickness.
that's pretty good.
So does that mean his arm is getting
Well,
worse?
as we age, that's a good question. As we age, do we get more efficient at repairing cellular structure or less efficient? Less, right? That's why anybody over the age of 30, the probability and viability of the eggs that we have left and the ability to repair genetic shifts goes down. Okay?
No, it's not.
I do apologize. Okay? So glucose grains, sugars, artificial sweeteners, conventional meat, because you are what you ate, and most of our conventional meats are given what? To get them really fat? Hormones. And then because we pump full of hormones and make them grow really fast and don't give them the appropriate nutrients, they get super duper fat and sick, right? And then we pump them full of what? So they don't die, right? So we can get them to market within 3 to 6 months. And then if you guys have ever watched any of these documentaries on meat processing, you will see them have to cut like large pockets of pus out of the meat. And then they're also using something now called meat glue. Have you guys heard of this?
Yes.
Yes, where they're basically taking all the nasty bits of meat and putting this chemical compound in it, rolling it up in cellophane, throwing it in the fridge, and then literally in like 24 hours, it looks like a beautiful fillet.
Are you talking about carrageenan?
Nope, it's actually called meat glue. You can look it up.
Because I was just like, I'm familiar with carrageenan, so that didn't
Yes.
sound like it was.
Nope.
Carrageenan is more seaweed than it is.
I am not 100% on that one. Refined vegetable oils, we talked about that because omegas 3s versus 6s and 9s have a different impact on the body. Genetically modified food, tap water, and what is the appropriate way recommended by our governing bodies to get rid of extra pharmaceutical medications and specifically opioids?
Dump them down the toilet.
The toilet. Oh, I know. I hate
Oh,
that. That's true.
I literally just connected the dots there.
And then you're drinking it.
Pesticides, NSAIDs. NSAIDs have about 300, they correlate, NSAID usage, overutilization of NSAID usage has a correlation to about 300,000 deaths per year due to GI bleeds. Okay? Antibiotics, skin, hair, cleaning products. Foods that help leaky gut. Bone broth. Organic bone broth. Okay? Because of the good branched chain amino acids. It's going back to, older days where it's like, Grandma, I'm sick. Let me make you some organic chicken noodle soup.
Yeah.
Kettle.
Organic bone broth, rich in branched chain amino acids, which help to restore the health of the gut lining, which is why the majority of our chronic illnesses, if we go to a very polarizing diet for a short window of time, like a ketogenic diet, ketogenic dieting is showing to reverse or helping the body to rebuild myelin, or the sheath that surrounds the nervous system. So it's actually helping to reverse MS-type lesions, okay? Now, I'm not saying ketogenic dieting forever is good. It's not. It's too polar. It will cause other problems, okay? But there are cool course corrections that we can get into for short windows of time. Raw cultured organic dairy, harder to find. Fermented vegetables, because the fermentation process is the bacterium already breaking down with the food, and then that donates really good prebiotics to us. Coconut products, because that's more rich in omega-3s. Sprouted seeds like flax, chia, and hemp. Ladies, if you came to our talk on the cycles and seasons of women's health, we covered a topic called seed cycling, which was a natural and normal way that we used to manage our progesterone and estrogen levels. If you guys have not read about seed cycling, I would encourage you to do so. Organic grass-fed beefs and lambs and bisons and wild-caught salmon, but even this, you got to be careful with now with nuclear reactors and stuff. So, The gut contains over 100 trillion bacterium of 500 to 1,000 different species. This is also a really important topic to cover when we talk about probiotics. Okay, probiotics, in order for them to do anything for you, they have to be 1 billion CFUs per strain of bacterium. So if you look at the back of your probiotic and it says like 50 million CFUs, not enough. It's got to be 1 billion per strain of bacterium. Okay, if we're supposed to have 500 to 1,000 different species of bacterium, and we're only taking one strain of bacterium, is that probiotic effective for you? No. Okay, so we want something that's very biodiverse, ideally. Okay, but there are certain strains of bacterium that have certain health benefits. Like, gentlemen, ladies, if we get a lot of recurrent UTIs, that means we are typically deficient in something called lactobacillus, which is a specific bacterial strain that lines the urethra. Okay, also for UTIs, lactobacillus, D-mannose, cranberry, parsley. Great ways to flush the kidneys, the ureters, and help to reduce burden there. Cool. 90% of serotonin is made in the gut. 70% of your immune cells are located in the, or they start there. Specifically something called immunoglobulin A, IgA, which A stands for allergies. So if we have a lot of allergies, we are not generating enough IgA in the right proportions. Okay? Stomach acid, in reference to our gut health. Do we want our stomach to be super acidic? Yes.
We need it to break down the food.
Yeah. Why? So commonly people talk about I have acid reflux because I have
Too
much
Too much.
acid.
Tell you.
Is the common misconception, but the probability is you're actually not generating
enough.
because once the stomach is acidic enough, there is a biofeedback mechanism from the acid talking to the sphincter in the esophagus, and then that loop goes up via the vagus nerve to the brain, and then that closes the sphincter. But if the stomach doesn't tell you it's ready to digest food because it's not acidic enough, that sphincter stays open, and then we get stuff shooting up in our esophagus. Really cool book on this called Why is Stomach Acid Good? Please check that out. Stomach acid is vitally necessary. It helps us to break down what we need to repair our tissues, muscles, nerves. That stomach acid has to be a specific pH in order to activate something called pepsin, an intrinsic factor. If you are anemic, you do not have enough
Iron.
intrinsic factor, which influences the absorption of
So where do you get that intrinsic factor?
having the appropriate amount of stomach acid and having a healthy microbiome. Okay? Kills pathogens before they reach the intestines that tighten gap junctions, and then also super important for downstream processes like the pancreas, liver, and the gallbladder. Also, if you don't have a gallbladder, that is a problem. Acid reflux is commonly referred to as too much acid, and then we take proton pump inhibition drugs or acid suppressant medications, and that starts to cause all sorts of other fun issues up and downstream, because if our stomach is not acidic enough and we're not stripping nutrients away from food, you are going to have some variation of a deficiency. Okay? Better approach is to restore normal acidity. And our stomach does naturally become less acidic over time, or less efficient at producing acid. Okay? The gallbladder. We have 3 primary macronutrients of the body. What are they? Proteins, fats, and lipids, fats, and I think carbs, sugar. Nice job. How do we get energy from the fat that we eat? We have to have a liver and a gallbladder doing its job. If we do not have a gallbladder, we cannot emulsify fat effectively and convert fat into energy. So everybody that's ever had their gallbladder taken out, you should be chronically supplementing something called bile salts. Yes, in order for your body to emulsify fat and generate energy from that profile. If you do not have that, it is going to cause interesting issues in your body. And if we cannot process and emulsify fat effectively, fat is the precursor, or cholesterol is the precursor to the formulation of all of our hormones. It's also the precursor to the formulation of something called melanin, which is that fatty sheath that protects your nervous system. Cool. So our gallbladder's got to work the way that it's supposed to. Gallbladder and liver, very, very important for storing sugar, specifically something called liver glycogen, very important for utilization of fat-soluble vitamins like vitamin D. And if you are, not a race thing, if you are Caucasian, you need to be supplementing vitamin D, okay? Because we have less melanocytes. We have a harder time generating and synthesizing vitamin D from the sun. Cool?
And how does that affect hormones? Cause D is a hormone too. So
Yes, a
How
precursor.
does it help with, or what is it, how does it affect all your other?
Muscle
Hormones.
yeah, muscle mass, bone density, I mean, systemically. Vitamin D is a primary process, so you have to have it for literally everything. Same thing with
So it
cholesterol.
won't mess your hormones up.
If you don't have enough of it, yeah.
I mean, if you supplement,
No.
that's what I'm asking.
Yes, no, it would actually support that process, okay? Liposomal vitamin D is gonna be more readily absorbable than what you're gonna get in a little white pill from Nature's Bounty, okay? Fat is the precursor to so many things. So guys, as we get into this holiday season, and as we are trying to be more conscious consumers, we need to work on ditches and switches, okay? We've gotta get away from our Teflons, because one scrape of a Teflon pan produces, I don't remember the statistic, but it was like tens of thousands of microplastics. It was crazy. So if you switch to your cast irons, okay, they last a whole lot longer. It's a great home defense mechanism. And also it helps to fix B vitamin issues, anemias, folates, so forth and so on. So switch over to your cast irons, just keep them seasoned and they last forever. Get rid of your plastic storage containers, please, and switch over to glass and silicone. Yes, it does cost you more to do it this way, but you can either pay the farmer now or you can pay Big Pharma later. So up to you on how you want to handle your business. But they do last a heck of a lot longer, and you have
The Pampered Chef stones, are those okay?
uncertain. Don't know.
The pizza.
Not sure on the ceramics. I know what you're referencing. I don't know. Okay. And then we have to, I'm working with parents on this one. Gotta get rid of the aluminum foil, especially heating things in aluminum foil or cooking over the grill with aluminum foil. In the oven, switch your aluminum foils to parchment papers. You can't use parchment paper over the grill. You will cause a fire, okay?
What about butcher's paper for like smoking or anything like that?
Don't know the answer to that.
Saran wrap too, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Gotta get rid of your plastics, okay? Ditches, okay, or stickers, M&Ms, Almond Joys, they finally quantified the amount of artificial dye it takes to cause nervous system damage.
Wow.
Do you want to guess what it is? Not very much. About 10 to 30 milligrams. Yet the average American meal, specifically school lunches is what they evaluated, has roughly about 1,500 milligrams of artificial dyes. And it's like, pump these kids full of this food, don't give them recess anymore, and make them sit in class. How's that going to work
And
out?
nothing.
Yeah, not going so well, right? I did provide, my lovely wife went and did this for everybody, some of these alternatives for you today. Guys, is this healthy? No. Does it reduce our burden of artificial crap?
Yes.
Yes. So in this season, holiday season, I get it. We all want to strive for excellence and perfection. Probably none of us are going to be 100% on that, right? We could choose to do that. It's just probably not something that we're going to choose to do. I would implore all of us to try and choose to do this, but we want to work on reducing the artificial dye burden and ideally having better ingredients in those products. So in our family, if we do the Halloween thing or our kids get inundated with a crap ton of candy, or we're doing snacks after baseball games or something like that, because we don't want them to like get to college age and then just be like, fuck the system, and you're right, so you gotta do a little bit of this. So yeah.
That's what I did.
So Yum Earth is a really decent brand. They make pretty good suckers. They have an alternative to Skittles. Justin's has dark chocolate and better sourced seed oils. Still not good for you. And then the Unreal brand's pretty decent. Okay, so if you guys start to look into the ingredients of these products, you're not going to look and be like, wow, this is healthy for me. You'll be like, it's a heck of a lot better than M&M's. Okay. Thanksgiving. You guys are interested? Cookieandcake.com. She makes some really great stuff and super clean. And this would fit into the recommended dietary profiles that I have some of you on. Okay. We got to get rid of our refined sugars, vegetable oils, refined bleach flours, and cornstarches. If you need to thicken something up like a gravy, switch from cornstarch to an arrowroot powder. I also made chicken wings the other day with arrowroot powder. Like, they turned out real good.
All right, I have a question.
Ma'am.
I use a considerable amount of evaporated milk and sweetened condensed milk during holidays. So, yay, nay. What can I use? And like, cause I make pumpkin pies of the yin yang.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and you use both of those ingredients in pumpkin pies. So, if I'm not using that, why, I just want an answer now, Google it.
Good. I don't know this person. I get nothing from this person. She does a really good job with dishes and swishes, okay? So I would reference her in reference to making a healthy alternative to your pumpkin pie option. I do
I mean, I don't want
apologize.
it to taste like pumpkin. I
I
want
have,
it
I have a lot of fun stuff in here.
Okay.
I don't have that. Right? When we talk about our sweeteners, we do want to switch to our honeys, maple syrups, coconut sugars, applesauces, bananas, and whole leaf stevia. Okay. And then for gingerbread people, decent gingerbread recipe. And this was more of a sugar cookie for Christmas. Less burden, but still be careful about your whole grain white flours. Try to stick to your organic ones. What's the brand? King Arthur's. King Arthur's is a pretty decent brand. Okay. Part 2 is talking about the nervous system. I can burn through this in about 5 minutes if you guys want. But I also have a baby that I need to take care of, and I know they've been waiting for a few minutes. So thank you, appreciate that. So we're going to move through this pretty quickly because this is the nervous system side of the gut-brain connection. When today was more focused on the gut health. Okay, but the primary connection is the vagus nerve. Cranial nerve 10 goes from brain to gut. It is outside of the spinal cord. It is that big, beautiful yellow thing here. Gentlemen, why when we get kicked in our nether regions, we feel sick to our because of your because of somebody knows their anatomy somewhere. Okay, but that's why we feel sick to our stomach. But this nerve literally connects into everything, and its primary job is to regulate something called homeostasis, keeping things in balance, keeping it organized, keeping it efficient. Your vagus nerve exits the skull through the internal jugular foramen, small little hole between your temporal bone and your occipital bone. So guys, what's one thing that we work on, all of you? Your spinal health. If our spine looks like this, how much increased tension is being applied to that vagus nerve? A lot. And there's been a huge increase in vasovagal syncopes, if you guys don't know what that is. That is becoming way more common because of the loss of lordosis of the neck and compression of the brainstem and the vagus nerve at the upper side.
And that's why Spock had you.
That's right.
So, autonomic nervous system, guys, we have a parasympathetic side and a sympathetic side. Sympathetic is what happens when we go into a fight or flight mechanism. Parasympathetic is what happens when we go to a rest, digest, healing, growth, sleep, hormonal regulation period. Do you guys ever wonder, like maybe, especially if you just started care, like, doc, it hurts my mid-back. We're like, we understand, but we're going to adjust your upper neck and your butt. Has anybody had that experience?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all connected.
Because we need to initially help your body to heal and get out of a stress-induced state. In order to do that, we have to stimulate these pathways to downregulate your nervous system so your body can start to take better care of itself. Okay? And then once you're more competent and your nervous system's better, then we can start to stress out the sympathetic chain ganglia. Okay? Stress alters the gut-brain axis. If you're super duper stressed out, your body's going to be altered in its gut health and in its neurologic response. There are all the fun mechanisms for it, but ultimately, adrenaline, cortisol, norepinephrine, epinephrine, all of those wonderful hormones and transmitters are going to jack up our system. When you're super stressed out, what happens to your blood pressure? What happens to your respiration rate? What happens to your immune system? What happens to your reproductive system? What happens to your sleep? You guys are all doctors. Okay. Stress, inflammation, depression. Okay. This is a really cool study, but basically it's talking about how stress is the precursor to our inflammatory response. And back in the day, our stressors were much more binary and life-threatening situations of like saber-toothed tiger bad, opposing tribe bad, right? Fire good. So, but now a lot of our stressors are perceived. We have media, social media. Anybody turn on the news and feel good about life? No, right?
Watching the news in 2020.
Yep. Taxes, finances, bills,
War.
family, war, famine, right? Miss America stuff. So we have all these perceived stressors that our brain does not differentiate from, okay? Which is why we have higher burden. Cool? So Rowan-Wesley's found that the vagus nerve mediates the relationship between psychobiotics. This is really cool. So the bacterium in your stomach, the microbiome, basically they studied this and understand that now that influences the vagus nerve or is communicated via the vagus nerve, and the vagus nerve then tells your nervous system or your brain like, hey man, everything's good, we're in good working order in the stomach and small intestines. Or the opposite can happen too, okay? Not in good working order, high inflammatory cortisol response, jacking up the system. Signs that you have an autonomic imbalance. It's going to be very similar to the gut inflammation stuff, but low parasympathetic tone, meaning this system is not generating enough input. We're typically going to see depressed type symptoms. Whereas if we have high sympathetic tone, we're typically going to see excitability, more excitability disease processes like anxieties, IBS, insomnias, irritabilities, neurodevelopmental issues. So also for our neurodevelopmental children, super cool by the way, little baby was here today, came in about 3 weeks ago, 6 months of development, couldn't sit, like posturally, like you should sit at 6 months. He would just like kind of flop over, literally within like one adjustment. He's controlling his postural extensor muscles, and then today he crawled out of the office in 3 weeks. I know, we're all like, he literally crawled to the front, we're all like looking around like, that's like way to go, man. It was super fun. So, so for all the neurosensory individuals out there or babies that are not hitting developmental milestones, more than 50% of children, we need to typically drive a whole lot of input through these areas, okay? There's a ridiculous amount of data on this now. So we want to make sure that that nervous system and that vagal tone's in good working order. We can measure that and do that through something called heart rate variability analysis, which all of you do here at this office, and most of you have access to this now as well. These are 10 ways that you can, on your own, maybe with a little help from a friend, help improve your vagal tone. Number 1, COVID. The opposite, antithesis of COVID, right? Positive, social, peer influence and engagement. Because when we interact socially, it is very beneficial to the vagus nerve.
And that's why the Amish have no COVID.
That's right.
Yeah, that's also why solitary confinement is a high level of corporal punishment. Right? Cold exposure. Also, when you do something that's uncomfortable, there's a part of your brain called the anterior cingulate gyrus which lights up and gives you better willpower to interact with things in the future, which is super cool. Cold plunging. Also, shameless plug, if you guys have seen the signs, that is going to be next door. That is going to be your recovery studio. They're going to have cold plunge, sauna, infrared sauna, Dahlia red light bed, which the data on this is super cool. Dahlia red light beds over a 4 to 6 week protocol or window of time. The testimonials, the outcomes are like 40 to 60 pounds and like 20 inches because the Dahlia red light helps to kill the fat cells in the body. And then if you pair that with like vibration plate therapy and a nutritional protocol, like fat loss, autoimmune stuff, like just goes through the roof. It's super cool. I think they're going to do a hyperbaric oxygen chamber in the future, but that one's expensive, so
When do they
I
open?
don't know. Hopefully 1st of December is what I'm hearing, and it's really, we're very excited to have a neighbor. So,
Yeah, but when you have the full, is it good?
yeah, he was wonderful. We loved him. So cold exposure or cold immersion therapy, short windows of time. Women, you have to be more conscientious of this in reference to your hormone profile, especially if you're childbearing years. Gargling. Anything that vibrates the throat, resonates the vagus nerve, which is why also singing, chanting, humming, laughing, and Chewbacca noises help you with that. Okay? Massage and laughter, social engagement, peer engagement. Yoga and Tai Chi. Tai Chi statistically outperforms yoga in the regulation of the nervous system. Pretty cool. But the yoga is still very good, but there are some interesting things in reference to belief systems there. Breathing deeply and slowly. Everybody, do me a favor. Put one hand here on your chest. One hand here on your belly. Close your eyes. Don't breathe yet. Hold your breath. Don't hold your breath too long. But pay attention to which hand moves more. Take a deep inhale. And exhale. All right, show of hands. Whose upper hand? Whose hand on their chest moved more? Okay. Whose belly moved more? Belly breathers win. Sorry, guys. Chest breathers. We have a dysfunctional breathing pattern. So when we breathe, our lower abdomen should expand, which pulls the diaphragm down, which allows the lungs to expand. Diaphragmatic movement stimulates the vagus nerve, which is why box breathing or deep breathing is basically included in any sort of mental health practice. Snipers in the military use it to downregulate their blood pressure in order to focus their field of vision. Box breathing is a good way to do that. Exercise, not shocking. And shameless plug, number 10, Say it loud for the people in the back. Good old chiropractic.
TruRoots chiropractic.
A little biased, but yes, that's a good place to start. So this is a great way for you guys to measure your autonomic nervous system. It's through something called heart rate variability. You do these assessments here, but the data on this is super sound, and most of you guys have access to this data now as consumers. I don't know how I feel about all the EMF and biometric data being shared, but that is up to you as a consumer, okay? And we know all the subluxation stuff, but basically, jacked up spines, jack up brains, blood flow, and cerebrospinal fluid circulation, and that's going to mess up your vagus nerve, and that's going to mess up that gut-brain connection. And if the vagus nerve is altered, it's going to make it really hard for your gut to talk to your brain the way that it's designed to. So, if we just work on gut health, are we going to get better? No. Partly, right? If we work on nervous system health, are we going to get everything better? A lot of it, right? But if we smash the two together, yes. That's a really good way to solve like 90% of problems that we're all facing. Okay? So that's why, guys, data. That's why, guys, if you choose, no pressure on this. If you guys need help through this holiday season or just in general, maybe in the first year as a reset, we are starting to offer gut health programs. No pressure on this, but they've been wildly successful. We've had individuals like drop 100 and something pounds and reverse their diabetic diagnoses. We've had individuals not have to be hospitalized for diverticulitis anymore. People sleeping through the night, regulating hormones, fertility improving, like, you know, all the stuff that just comes with better gut health and gut competence. Okay? If you need a little bit of a reset, 90 days is a good window to work on it. If you need help, 6 months is what you need to do to work on it. Why 90 days and 6 months? Because the cells that line the stomach and small intestines turn over in what period of time?
4 weeks.
90 days. So if we want to
Hey, I was guessing.
help the body to repair, we got to give it a minimum of 90 days. If we really want to reverse a disease process, we got to give it 6 months. Okay? So if you guys want help with any of these protocols, no pressure on this. There's a 90-day and a 6-month offering. If you do want to move forward with something like that, we will discount it for you. But I sat down and did this, the supplemental aspect and the sensitivity testing aspect. If you were to pay somebody or pay for each of the individual supplemental supports in this protocol, as well as the sensitivity testing, that would be your bill. For real. Like I sat down and I sourced all of them and was like, oh my gosh, my Amazon cart's really expensive. This PhD formulator out of Florida, his name is Dr. McCracken, I believe. Which is kind of fun as a chiropractic thing. Really brilliant gentleman. Yeah, right? Really brilliant gentleman, but he built these really cool protocols, and they are a really good way to help reset the system. So if you guys need help with that, whether it's now prior to the holiday or whether getting out of the end of the holiday, yeah, I know. But feel free to reach back out to us. We'd be happy to help you with these various protocols. You let me know. No pressure on this. And it doesn't have to be a full protocol too. If you're just like, Doc, I need you to review my diet. Doc, I'm taking these supplements. What do you think? Doc, I want to try and reduce my need for this medication. What things can I do in my body to help my body improve so that way maybe I can talk to my medical doctor about not needing this one as much. Right? So if you guys want help with that, just ask. Our family is always so blessed to partner with yours to get to the root cause of your health concerns. Have a wonderful evening. Be blessed.